Why is Wham Bam Dashcam America's best dashcam channel? Because every video you're about to see was sent to us directly by the people who captured them. Enjoy! A man waited patiently for his traffic light to turn green before proceeding through the intersection. Wait, what happened? Let's take a look at the rear camera and see if we can tell why a man's Hyundai Kona suddenly spun out of control. A Nissan Leaf driver had run a red light, T-boning a man's SUV hard enough to push it into the pickup truck on his right. It's not until a man pulls out of the intersection that we can spot the red light runner's vehicle. A patrolling police officer came across the accident scene before anybody called 911, and E-Man gave them a copy of his dashcam video. E-Man's Iron Man Edition Hyundai Kona was nearly totaled, and repairs took 3 months and $14,000 to complete. Thankfully, nobody was seriously injured. Rob was headed to a store with his wife. As he took to the right lane to get around slower traffic, a pickup hauling a trailer in the left lane suddenly turned across Rob's lane. The pickup driver didn't signal or check his blind spot before attempting to turn right from the left lane. Thankfully, a police officer in an unmarked SUV saw the collision and followed both drivers into a nearby parking lot. The pickup driver was cited and his insurance provider paid $7,000 to repair Rob's F-150 Platinum after he sent them his dashcam footage. This submitter was on his way to watch a game with friends when he suddenly noticed a silver SUV flying up behind him. The SUV driver lost control on the wet road surface, barely avoiding a collision with the guardrail before straightening back out and continuing to speed down the highway. Our submitter says, "Get some good tires, people." I'm not sure if the tires were the issue here, or if this close call was caused by excessive speed. Chris had just finished at work and was driving his all-wheel drive Mazda CX-3 equipped with all-weather tires in the snow. Unfortunately, all his preparation for winter conditions couldn't help another driver he encountered. The other driver was going too fast and slammed on the brakes while cranking their wheels to the right, resulting in a total loss of traction. Their car slid directly into Chris's Mazda. Chris checked on the other driver and called 911. Thankfully, nobody was hurt, but Chris is sorry he missed leg day. He sent his dashcam video to the insurance companies, and he's now waiting for their response. Anthony was waiting to turn onto a road when he watched an SUV go flying past him, missing a tire. Let's slow that down for a closer look. Yep, they're missing a tire all right. Anthony told us the SUV driver then ran a red light before continuing to speed down the road. This close call is scary. In this clip, Peyton is the guy on the motorcycle and his girlfriend was following him in his truck on his way to a shop to have some work done on his bike. Peyton honked at the SUV driver as they nearly pushed his Victory Vision into the median. He tried reporting the incident to the local sheriff's department, but they told him they couldn't do much about the out-of-state driver. Remember Vinicius, the Uber driver whose video we featured in episode 24? After winning that case, he was driving again for Uber when another driver ran a stop sign in front of him. Vinicius told us the other driver was intoxicated. He had 4 passengers at the time of the accident. Sadly, his car, which he needs for work, is still being fixed. Yikes! That looks a lot worse than the damage from the first accident. Here's hoping he gets his car back soon. Logan was headed home from work when he encountered a car that had hopped a curb that had a 3-foot deep hole on the other side. Logan told us the hole was for a construction zone where workers had been putting pipe in the ground. The car was high-centered with no hope of getting unstuck without getting pulled out. Noah was driving his F-350 to work when an SUV came barreling down the road, crossing well into Noah's lane. Noah estimates his own speed at 40 miles per hour and the other drivers at over 60. He said the SUV left skid marks when the driver slammed on the brakes to avoid a collision, and they were still there when he went home from work. Noah told us he loves our videos, but he'd hoped never to be making a submission. At least it was just a close call and not an accident. Dell was driving home from work when the driver of an SUV passed him on the shoulder before sideswiping his Chevy Impala. If we rewind the footage, it looks like Dell suddenly slowed down before this happened, although he didn't tell us why. He also swerved onto the shoulder himself as the SUV began to pass him. Dell pulled over, but the SUV driver didn't, making this a hit and run. Dell called the police and gave them the other driver's license plate number. In total, the collision did over $4,000 in damage to Dell's car. Ronaldo was on his way to pick up his girlfriend from work when he encountered this week's Tesla behaving badly. By the way, you may have noticed we don't have a Tesla behaving badly in every episode. That's only because we need our viewers to keep sending them in. Okay, let's roll the jingle and watch this Tesla driver ignore the road markings.
That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive.
Ronaldo slammed on the brakes and honked to avoid a collision. He's just glad he was paying attention. We have fun roasting bad Tesla drivers, but the truth is, there are bad drivers of every car brand. Zoran was nearly Honda bumped by an inattentive driver who swerved into his lane while trying to pass a slow truck. When Zoran caught up to the Honda driver at the next traffic signal, he told us he saw her paying more attention to her phone than to the road. Now it all makes sense. Want to see what happens when someone makes a right on red when traffic isn't clear? This emitter was heading to Starbucks when a pickup driver turned through a red light without stopping and hit his Mazda CX-5. This is his first accident in a car he bought brand new less than a year ago. Both drivers exchanged information and the insurance investigation is still pending. Carlos turned onto a street to find a driver who evidently didn't realize the road was a one-way. The other driver turned onto a different street after Carlos drove by, honking and pointing at the one-way signs. Eric was waiting at a red light when he encountered not one, but two wrong-way drivers coming toward him down a one-way street. Both drivers then turned into active traffic, nearly causing multiple accidents and forcing other drivers to stop for them. Does it seem like one car is chasing the other and they're making illegal maneuvers in an attempt to get away? Post your theory in the comments. Steve's wife Bree was preparing to turn left from a lane where traffic is allowed to turn left or continue straight. The driver of a pickup truck next to her went straight even though his lane is only for left turns. Both drivers pulled over and exchanged information, and a police officer arrived and conducted a collision investigation. Amazingly, the pickup driver denied responsibility, claiming Bree had turned into the side of his truck. Once they showed his insurance provider the dashcam video, they accepted responsibility and paid for the repairs. Cena and his wife Anita were on their way to their favorite sushi restaurant. Suddenly, the driver of a Mitsubishi invaded his lane without signaling. Cena said he kept on going, sushi was waiting after all. Later, Anita asked if he was going to send the video to Wham Bam, and he told her he sure was. Dayton watched the driver of a blue Camaro turn in front of traffic to get to where a school bus was dropping off her child. The oncoming Buick was being driven by an elderly woman who had no chance to avoid T-boning the Camaro. Thankfully, there were no injuries. Dayton stopped to make sure everyone was okay and gave copies of his dashcam footage to the Buick driver and the responding officer. Greg was driving on a cold evening after snow had melted, leaving black ice behind in some places. As he waited at a traffic light, the driver of a Jeep Liberty lost control while turning and smashed into Greg's Toyota Prius. The Jeep was relatively undamaged, while Greg's Prius needed a new headlight and front bumper cover. Thankfully, nobody was injured. The Jeep driver accepted fault right away, and his insurance provider paid to repair Greg's car. Philippe and Igor were headed home after a trip when they noticed the oncoming lane was empty, which was unusual for this ordinarily busy road. Eventually, they discovered what had stopped the oncoming traffic. A man was leading multiple horses down the road, presumably from one of the nearby farms. They told us our channel inspired them to buy a dashcam, something important to have in any car. Thanks guys, see you next week.